Hey everyone, welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. This is your host, Jonah Lupton. And of course, we have a great episode for you today. On the phone, we're talking to Steve Wilbourne. He is the co-founder of a company called Questis. The website is myquestis.com. You'll see that link in the show notes. And Steve started the company back in about 2004. It was an investment advisory firm, but they realized after a few years that it was better to kind of pivot into this new digital age. So they are essentially a platform for financial wellness. So it's kind of an enterprise platform. We'll talk more about that in a second. The company, they've raised $3.6 million thus far, and they're in the process of closing another $2 million, which they expect to close by May. Steve's co-founder is John Tabb. So they've been together for over a decade now. Questis is based in Charleston. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on in Charleston, which is pretty cool. And let's welcome Steve to the show. Steve, how are you?
Doing great today. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for joining us. So I didn't want to give too much detail on what Questis is doing. I'd rather hear it from you. So why don't you tell us in your own words what your company is up to?
Yep. So Questis is really was driven by the idea that financially stressed employees are not the optimal employee. So whether it's financial stress leading to absenteeism or less productivity or presenteeism. After years of working in the retirement plan consulting and advisory business and working with plan participants on financial education, we felt like there was an opportunity to build a product that sat between the benefits that HR provides employees and what traditional benefits and retirement plan service providers actually do for the employees. So we built a platform that combines education and content as well as tools and account aggregation, but also it integrates in real financial advice from certified financial planners and other financial coaches. So at any point while you're on the platform, if you want to connect with a human and actually talk to somebody, there's tools within the platform that allow that to happen. So at this point, we feel like we've got the most scalable, configurable, scalable, and secure platform in the space. And we've had some pretty good success working directly with the financial institutions market.
So as you and I were talking about, I also spent nine plus years in the investment advisory business, and I did some retirement plan business as well. And when I would go into a business and talk to the owner about who was handling his retirement accounts, on the corporate level, they could rarely even come up with the name of the person who their contact person was. The employees never got any advice or support. There is clearly a need in the market for this. So who are you guys going after? What types of businesses? I mean, I assume it's kind of industry agnostic, but is there a certain size of business that really works well for this?
So when we started the business, like a lot of startups, you try to find what is your go-to-market strategy. And our go-to-market strategy out of the gates was working directly with the employers themselves, whereby we provided not only the software, but the services components of the software as well. So financial coaching as well as customer success management, training and education and so forth. I think where we really started to see a turn or a pivot for us was about early 2016 when we started to attract the interest of other financial institutions who were also looking to increase their presence with financial wellness in the marketplace. And it was through that kind of process that we realized that our platform was well built to be configured for these other financial institutions. So at this point, we tend to focus on working with a number of different kind of channel verticals. So we work with the large accountancy and kind of consulting channels. We work with large retirement plan advisors. We work with large retirement plan or DC record keepers, so the actual retirement plan platforms themselves. And then we've also had some success working with in the health and wellness space where companies that are already inside employers, inside those businesses, who do the physical wellness side of things, who are looking to expand into the financial wellness. So at this point, we sell indirectly to the market. And as far as the types of companies, it ranges from Fortune 500 companies that are using the platform all the way down to what I would consider to be kind of larger small businesses or SMBs. So typically companies that have 500 or 1,000 employees or more in most cases.
So what is the sales process like for the company, and does it change depending on the size of client you're going after?
Yeah, so again, I think that's a good question, and part of the reason why we have really shifted our focus to selling through our business relationships or service relationships. My experience right now is that financial wellness is definitely something that is very, very popular in the marketplace, and it's been kind of top of mind with HR leadership for a number of years. But HR is already dealing with a number of different service providers, whether it's their benefits consultants, whether it's their retirement plan consultants, whether it's their accounting and tax consultants. Most of those different service providers, in some capacity, they are getting into the financial wellness space, or they're already in the financial wellness space. So for us, we felt like the quickest way to gain traction was to go ahead and work with the companies that already had a foot in the door with these larger employers. So from our perspective, we support the sales and marketing process with our partners, and we certainly get involved from a architecture standpoint and kind of a technical standpoint throughout the process of the sale. But we're not necessarily on the front lines creating the leads that, as far as, we're not actually out there creating direct leads into the companies.
Okay. And how did you land some of these partnerships that you talk about, some of these large financial institutions and DC companies, which I assume is defined contribution companies?
That's correct.
Did you find them, or did they find you?
It's been both. I mean, it's interesting. It's been an interesting journey because we've landed some of those companies directly through relationships that came from working in the industry for years. But we've also landed quite a few relationships through whether it's attending HR events, HR tech events, or technology conferences, or the other areas that we've actually landed some very, very good customers through content marketing and where people have picked up on us, and whether it's a podcast or some type of press release or something, and ultimately generated an inbound lead through digital through the website. So you don't ever really know where they're going to come from, but we've seen success in kind of all three of those avenues.
So you mentioned that you used to be an investment advisor, and that's how this business started back in 2004. And then you did a pivot. Running an investment business versus running a tech company is very different. How did you come across that decision? I mean, I'm sure it's because you saw an opportunity, but in terms of like changing your style as an entrepreneur or having to learn new skills, I mean, what did it take?
Well, first of all, I would classify myself as an entrepreneur more so than an investment advisor. I've been very, very entrepreneurial from the time I got out of school in 1991. So I have started and participated even when I was working as an investment advisor in a number of different startups, and whether it was as an investor or as an advisor, or in some cases even actively. So I have had my hand in the entrepreneurial space for a long, long time. We had a pretty comfortable thing going with the investment advisory business that we were running, and between myself and John Tabb, we just saw a change in the market. I mean, we started seeing whether it was our clients or whether it was the plan participants of our retirement business, we just saw people changing. We saw the way that people wanted to get advice to be, different than what it used to be. I think the days of people wanting to jump in the car and drive down the street and meet with their financial advisor are few and far between. And so whether it was social or technical, but there's definitely a changing environment in everything that we do. And we felt like getting into the digital space was an opportunity. And quite honestly, when we started the process, we looked at it as an enhancement to our current business. But the deeper we got into it, the more it began to grow into a much, much larger opportunity than we ever originally envisioned.
How large is your team right now in terms of headcount?
We're somewhere between 20 and 25.
Okay.
I should know that. I should know
That's
that number.
All right.
But I think we're right around 22.
So what's been your recruiting strategy, and have you been able to find the right talent in Charleston?
Yeah, I think Charleston. When it comes to in our team, just to give you a quick kind of composition of our team at this point is well over 50% on kind of the technical side of our team. So whether it's the IT and architecture side or actual designers and developers. So we've got most of our teams now, we're definitely slanted toward technology versus anything related to an investment advisory firm. When it comes to the technology, I was very fortunate early on to connect and recruit some good technical leadership and guys who have worked both locally as well as across the country with some top-notch software companies. And so, I would say anyone getting into this space, if that's not your background, you better have someone on your team that has been successful in that space, because I would say the first tier of recruitment is going to definitely be through those personal relationships, people that they've worked with previously at other software businesses, where there's a trust and a shared trust that they can recruit and bring them over to a new vision. So we've been very fortunate there. As it pertains to kind of growing that, I think that the myth that you can only find technical talent on the West Coast or in New York or Boston or someplace like that, I think it really is a myth. I think as we grow the business, I do not find that we're struggling to find additional technical talent. It may come a day when we exceed a certain number of employees where the market tightens up a little bit for where we are, but I don't think we're anywhere close to that. And I think on top of that, Charleston is a very, very attractive place for people to live, and it seems like we can easily find people that we're willing to relocate, whether it's from West Coast, East Coast, Raleigh, Atlanta, it doesn't matter. So right now, doesn't seem to be an issue.
Talk to us about Charleston then, because you've been down in that area for 20 years. I know you've seen it change a lot, but maybe just talk to us, and even in just the last 5 or 10 years, how has the entrepreneurial community grown?
I think it's grown significantly. I think that, when I got to Charleston, if you weren't in either the ports business or tourism, hospitality and tourism, or if you didn't work in professional services like real estate brokerage, investments, legal, physicians, et cetera, it didn't seem like there was a ton of business. But Charleston's exploded with opportunities in the last decade, and there's been a couple really nice cornerstone technology companies, Blackbaud, Benefit Focus, that I think have certainly helped spawn a lot of technical opportunities. In addition to that, the market's grown significantly in industry and trade with big companies in Charleston like Boeing, as well as literally dozens of defense contractors, and now the latest one being Volvo that's coming to Charleston.
Oh, wow.
The city's got a ton of opportunity right now. I think ultimately in the technology space, not only do you have to have the entrepreneurial community and kind of ecosystem, but I think ultimately what you need is also capital. And I think that Charleston is starting to see a little bit of shift in the ability to raise capital. So there's a very good angel and early stage kind of angel and high net worth community. A lot of people who have retired or relocated to Charleston from major markets, and so who are used to making those types of early stage investments. I think Charleston is still lacking on institutional capital,
Right.
but we've seen some deals recently where institutional capital is absolutely not afraid to come into Charleston. So I think that that's changing, and there's even a few local venture capital funds that have in the recent last year or so begun to take shape, and they've raised a couple funds locally, and so it's changing. So I think it's a great place to build and grow a company.
So that's a nice segue into my next question, which is about the fundraising activity for Questis. So you guys have already raised $3.6 million, or in the process of closing another $2 million. Where did that money come from? Was that angel investors or high net worth, or from the institutional money that you spoke about, which I'm assuming means VCs?
Yeah, the vast majority of the money that we've raised so far has come through angel, high net worth angel investors. The other component of the money we've raised to date is also family offices. So,
okay.
If people aren't familiar with a family office, it's basically a very, very high net worth family who runs a portion of the family money like an investment fund. So they make a lot of private investments, but they have the net worth to almost function like a fund. That for us, that's where the majority of the money has come. We have taken a portion of the money raised from a few small institutional funds, but up until now, the majority of the money has been through that kind of family office, high net worth, angel investment network.
And how did you find them? That's always an interesting question. I mean, did you approach them directly? Did you go through warm introductions? Did you know them from running the investment advisory firm? What was the connection to get to them?
All of the above.
Okay.
So I think I was a little fortunate in the sense that I had some network of that community anyways.
Right.
But at the same time, raising capital is never easy. And no matter how good you think your network is, until you have to actually present and ask for a check, it's just not something easy. It's not easy to do. So, you quickly move through your network as to who isn't an investor, and you have to start leveraging your relationships and try to expand into those other areas. So, I've got several guys on my team have been very helpful in that they've brought some relationships to the table, and then the other thing is that we've been pretty active in in a couple of different areas to try to just get our name in the right circles, and I think that it's just a grind. You gotta look, and the other piece of it is that I've also been very active in raising capital, not just in Charleston, but I've also gone outside the Charleston market to places like New York and so forth to leverage relationships and network in those other markets.
So let's say by May you guys have closed on 5.6 million. How many investors total do you think you'll have?
I mean, we've got a good number. I mean, we have some, what I would consider to be friends and family type money in those high net worth. So I think if you really look at it, we'll have somewhere around 20 to 25 investors when it's all said and done.
And I guess
but you can,
where I was going with that is,
I was going to say, you can probably take 80% of that money and shrink it down to about 5 investors, though.
Okay, right. So you had 5 lead investors essentially, and then just a bunch of smaller investors that threw some money in. And I guess where I was going with that is how many investors you think you actually had to present to or pitch to, whatever you want to call it, or get in front of face to face in order to close, right? So you've closed 20. I mean, did you present to 40 or 60, or was it more than that?
I mean, it's I would say at least double.
Wow. Okay.
But I think that, I think when you're in the angel and kind of high net worth space, if you get to the pitch, the chances are it's a warmer relationship, that got you there.
Right.
So right. I think your percentage of success is never going to be higher than in that initial angel and that initial network of investors. I think as we go, and we are preparing for, what could be a venture round at some point. I think your percentage of success with venture firms is far less than that.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely. Right. Because those guys invest in a lot fewer companies per year. They might only do 6 to 8 investments a year, and they may look at, 300 plus companies to do that.
Yeah. It's much more of a, it's probably going to be, 15, 20, 30 different firms to potentially identify one.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the angel investors are more of that shotgun approach. More deals because each one's a little bit more riskier, and then the VCs are doing the rifle approach. What's been the biggest challenge over the last, let's forget about the investment advisory firm because that's really just a totally different business. But since you guys morphed into this financial wellness platform, what are the biggest challenges for you and the company?
I think the biggest challenge is managing and growing your people. Being an entrepreneur, and especially, for us to build a enterprise ready platform, it's not something that you go out and sell it to one of these large financial institutions when it's not ready. So we've had to go through and burn through a lot of capital for a couple of years with a fairly robust, expensive team of, developers. So I think one of the challenges is that raising capital is hard, and there's a tremendous amount of risk, and keeping your team motivated, keeping your team focused, and also confident that they're taking a worthwhile risk, and that it's not it's not something that's for naught. So I think that's the hardest thing in a startup is really keeping your core team in place and really focused and fighting through those days and those weeks when at times it's challenging and even sometimes a little bit bleak. So
what does your typical week look like in terms of how do you allocate your time between running the business and trying to grow the company versus hiring and recruiting versus just putting out fires and everything else that goes into it?
Yeah, I would say my week is I still spend a lot of my week working on fundraising and prepping for fundraising and or managing existing investor relationships.
Okay.
I'd say another portion of my week is certainly spent in sales and marketing. I'm a sales oriented guy, and I feel like there's still no one, at this stage of the company, I'm probably still the guy who needs to be telling the story, especially to certain types of customers. So I spend a good portion of my time in sales. And then I would say the other portion of my time is a little bit of playing fireman, which is dealing with some of those issues that pop up that need to be addressed, whether it's an employee issue or, how do we deal with a technical, even though I'm not the one to necessarily correct the technical issue, it might be where, how do we communicate it, or how do we work with that customer to resolve something, or whatever it may be. So it's kind of a combination of a lot of different hats.
What are your top 3 business goals for 2017?
Yeah, so our top 2 business goals, we basically set 2 big goals for our company. One is to really grow the value of our software by making it as enterprise ready and different as we can make it. So we're focused on security, scalability, performance, quality of our code, and also as much innovation as we can possibly put into the software. The second goal is at this stage, it's all about growing revenue and growing sales. So whatever we can do to grow revenue and support our channels, we're going to do everything possible in that area. So that's a combination of not only new customers, but also growing the number of users and adoption from the customers we currently have.
Gotcha. And what is what's the end game with your company? Now that you've raised capital from investors, I'm sure that question comes up with some of them. Do you guys think you'll get acquired someday? Is this, keep it as an independent company for as long as possible? You're going to IPO in 6 years on the New York Stock Exchange. What do you think about when I ask that question?
I answer that. I get asked that question a lot, and I answer that question the same way every single time, which is everybody has a price that you would consider kind of, walking away or selling or whatever it may be. But I don't focus on that at all. I focus on the fact that I think there's an opportunity to be the best financial wellness solution in the marketplace. And the thing that drives me more than anything is that I believe financial wellness is going to be a part of an employer and an employee's life going forward. And my goal is to wake up one day and be able to say that, 50 million Americans or 40 million Americans get financial wellness off of the Questis platform. And, if we achieve what we think we can achieve, we know that we'll have a valuable company, and we know that we'll have an opportunity, potentially to sell it at some point or go public or whatever. But that's not the goal today.
Good answer. I like that. Everyone does have a price, and they may not admit it or tell it to you, but there is a price in their head somewhere that they would sell for or whatnot. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all I got for you, Steve. Really appreciate you taking the time to spend half an hour or so with us. I'm sure it's a beautiful day in Charleston. It usually is. Any closing words for us, or at least tell us how we can connect with you online? Yeah,
just you can find Questis at myquestis.com, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. And the only thing I would say to everybody is stay persistent. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So just it's a grind, and you got to just keep after it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your words of wisdom, and look forward to staying in touch with you. And whenever I get down to Charleston, we'll have to go grab some lunch.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Steve. Talk to you soon, man. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.